Good morning and welcome to TownNews.com's July customer webinar. We usually do these on the first Thursday of the month, but this time we decided to move it a week to give us a bit of distance from the 4th of July holiday. Judging from the number of out-of-office replies we received when we sent the invite, an awful lot of folks are still on vacation. Well, they're the ones missing out because we're going to give you a sneak peek at a really exciting new product. It's called TownNews.com IQ, and its mission is to help you collect and harness data to grow advertising revenue, customize content, and expand your audience. Teresa Nelson, our Director of Business Development, will walk you through the program. We also have Wesley Ferris, the Program Manager for TownNews.com IQ, and Paige Ruba from our Marketing Department in the room. I'm Aaron Gillette, Marketing Director at TownNews.com. The presentation will take 20 to 30 minutes and will be followed by a Q&A session. At any time, you can type a question into the GoToMeeting chat box, but we'll hold off on answering questions until the end of the show. With that, I'm going to hand off to Teresa to show us what the IQ program is all about. Take it away, Teresa.
Thanks. I appreciate you handing it on over. Welcome, everybody. We're real excited to talk about our new initiative, which is the TownNews.IQ program, and it's all around our DMP platform. So we will get going here and share some good information with you today. Today we're going to talk about just DMP in general, just to make sure everybody has a good background on what is available with the DMP and why we think it can be important to your product set. And then we'll discuss a little bit about our program and where we're at in that program. And of course we'll handle questions and discussions as well. So let's get started with what is a DMP. So a DMP is a data management platform, and one of the things as we talk through here, you'll see that there's a lot of acronyms. Some you may be familiar with, some you may not. We'll try to make sure we define every one of them. If we don't, please give us a question on that, because we want to make sure everybody understands what's going on. But a data management platform in our world is a third-party application. We are partnering with a data management provider. The company is called Lotame to offer our services to you. What's great about this is that this gives you the ability to collect and harness data that you have in your organization today, maybe not in a very useful fashion. So our goals are to make that data actionable and meaningful for you. So data is collected in various ways. It can be collected on your websites. It can be collected bringing it through uploads or APIs on the backside. All this data then can be utilized by departments, functional areas at your company. It can be utilized for advertising. We will be utilizing it for content management. We also see value in the newsroom and SERC and marketing. You know, the more you can know about your readers and users, the better off you can make decisions. So the data flow for a DMP starts with data collection. You gotta get that data into a system so that you have it available for use. And as I said, the data can come from many different places. One of the big ones is that a cookie is placed on your properties and data is collected from that. That's non-PII data, but very important data about users.
What's PII?
PII is your personal identification information. So that is what you want to stay away from. We want to follow good web and internet practices from that perspective. But you can bring that type of information through what you can kind of consider maybe a backdoor, but uploaded into the system or done through a server-to-server API where it's protected. And so you gather all this information on your users, and that's ongoing. But as I said, you got to get started doing that. And then you have the ability to organize that data. And the organization of data with a DMP is around audiences. That's why what's important to you is, you know, what do our users have interest in, behaviors in, qualifications in, etc., so that you can use that data throughout your applications and activities. Once the data is organized, then it's available for use. And one of the big uses centers around the advertising world. You can, with targeted information, which audience segments provide, you can get lift from your advertising revenue. The buyer side of the world, the DSP side, is very interested in having that information and are willing to pay for it. So this gives you the opportunity to decommoditize your inventory from an ad perspective. But that's not the only use. The data can be utilized in other activation channels. You can utilize it in your marketing. You might have email campaigns. And as we said, one of the big things that we think is going to be hugely valuable is the integration with our content management system. So I wanted to talk a little bit here about how we have this structured and why TownNews is playing in this for our customer groups. One of the big things is that there is not only value to you within your group or your website, but also across there can be value, and that's where TownNews comes into play. This is a world where there's a big learning curve for most people. And this gives us the ability to share, to collaborate, to do things cross groups. And so this just shows you how our network will be set up. The data provider, Lotame, will be working with us. We will be using their tools, but we're wrapping a whole entire program around that data management platform. That's our TownNews.iq. And that's what we'll be offering to our media groups, both in newspaper broadcast and then onto their sites. Groups are essential or important here because volume is also important. So that's why the group can be also another, a layer that adds in information for you and can be used across your properties as well. Does not have to be, but that's just one of those things that we looked out for. You can see we represent both in our hierarchy. So the data management platform, this is a slide that should just give you a little bit of a better idea of what we mean about data collection and usage. So you have users that come to your site and you can collect information on them location-wise, behavior-wise, and you build a profile of that user. And then those users are into segments, and so this just gives you an idea of this little guy here is a male, 25 to 34. He's in the U.S. He likes crafts and online gaming. Well, an advertiser could find that very good information for them if they are advertising apps for online gaming, or you may have a online gaming convention that's in your city, and that in your newsroom you can write more articles on online gaming because your users are interested in that. So you can see kind of how that flows across from a content perspective, a blocks perspective. If you know that information, you could offer up recommended articles on online gaming because that user has the ability or has an interest in that. So in the world out there, there's all kinds of data that's available to you that you can purchase. It's referred to as third-party data. So why can't I just use that? Why do I want first-party data? And I want to take a little bit of time here to give you some information on why first-party data is important. One of the big things is it's your data. It's true data. It's something you're collecting. It is most valuable to the advertisers because it's more accurate and the yields are better. And those have been proven. And cookies are rarely blocked because it's your sites, where cookies from other third parties you can block from that perspective. And as I said earlier, we follow the PII regulations as well. So the first party data is, what it is. It's something you can rely on, and you can extend that use beyond the advertising side of it. So I got a little note here for an industry standard that, in the advertising world, first-party data is 2 to 3 times a lift when you're using it for segmented audience than non-segmented. So it just gives you an idea of some of the possibilities just with basic use of segmented data and why first-party is important. So as we had a little bit earlier, you have all kinds of visitors, readers that come to your sites, and you can collect all kinds of information on them based upon where they're going on your site, what are they doing while you're on your site, information about them from a subscription, etc. And so it's busily collecting that in the background, and you're providing information in the background, and then that data can be taken and clumped into segments and put into audience segments that can be of value to you. Some examples of segments that you could come up with. You may have a segment that if somebody comes to your site in a 7-day period and reads 5 news articles, you want them classified as a news junkie, and that can be a segment that is valuable to you within your organization. Another example is, they came to your auto site and they have visited that site 10 times in 3 weeks. And they looked at, auto, so they could be an auto intender. If you're going out to a local advertiser and you have, 100 or you have a million impressions that are available, but you don't have any information on them, you try to sell those to that automobile dealer. But what happens if you have maybe only 250,000, but they're auto intenders? That increases that value even on a local level for you to be able to use, and should help you lift your advertising level and rates, not only programmatically but locally as well. So it just shows you that the collection of the data is one part, and then the audience segments is another area where you can take the data in different ways and make segments that are valuable to the parties that are using or that you want to use the data with. Talk a little bit here, I mentioned just briefly a few seconds ago about ad targeting. This, we believe, can have value programmatically, definitely, but also locally. If you can equip your local sales force with information on targeting information as well, it should allow them to even get better rates for ads. Content, definitely. If you can increase a user experience and increase their satisfaction, some of the things that are byproducts of that are higher time on sites, more page views, and they return more often. All of those lead to an increase of revenue by themselves, but if you can have that ad targeting with it, that adds another layer to the upside that you could get. One thing that attracted us from our partnering with Lotame was they have patent pending technology on Crossdevice DDuping. And what that means is a user can access your site through various devices. It could be their work computer, home computer, mobile device, a phablet, a tablet. There's all kinds of ways that they can access it. And what you want to know and what's important to you is that it can be the same user. Yes, they're using different devices, and that's good to know, but I only want to count them as a unique once. And so they have technology that allows us to do this through a couple different methodologies. And this is, we found from our pilot that we ran with them, very effective and can be very helpful to you in really knowing your audience and how your audience is using you. So, now that you know what a DMP is, why should you use TownNews for that? And so we put together a TownNews IQ program. And what our goals were with that was to be able to offer this across our vast customer base. We have customers that vary in size from small to very large. And we wanted a solution that could be used by all of them in some way, shape, or form to help them with their goals inside of their media organizations. And we wanted to be able to do that in an affordable fashion. One of the things in the market today with DMPs is that a lot of people don't have access to them because they're priced too high. So by us being able to offer this program in a way where we can utilize the services throughout our TownNews customer base, it gives us the ability to make it very affordable and very useful to anybody within our customer base. The other one that was very attractive to us is that we can work with our customers and also with Lotame to have seamless integration to our Block CMS. And this is twofold. One part of that is helping identify great places where you can gather data on users that would be useful to you in extending audience segments throughout your organization. So instead of you having to maybe manually track something or upload it on the back, or not do it, we can help with getting things set up so that data is collected for you so you have more data to use. The other side of that is actually using the audience data for your user base, so you can work with custom content recommendations and personalization for that. And that's an area we felt we could bring a lot of value to by everybody being under a Town News umbrella. Lotame has another capability that we really liked, and that was the opportunity to be able to share, and they call it second-party data, but anybody on the Lotame network, and they have their system in many media groups across the U.S. and internationally for them, and you can share data with them. And what share data means is you might do a campaign together, you might need additional audience extension, you might need information about things, and you have the ability to say, hey, I'll share my data with another organization that's on the Lotame network. And we think that there's some good value in that. And when I talked to some references while we were researching possible opportunities, there were different use cases that they had come up with where they found value in that, and they said they were just at the entry level with it, and they see that there could be a lot of other opportunities that they haven't even got to yet. And then lastly, one of the things that we think is very important and a goal that our program has is the ability to orchestrate and help collaborate with our customers to do test and targeting and benefits across the network. So audience insights. No one should have to start from scratch. Everybody has knowledge on things. There's things that work, that don't work, ways to do things. That information can be shared and valuable to all our customers. And we want to help facilitate that flow of information across the groups. So TownNews.com IQ has just recently launched. We have users on our system working with it, and we are at what we call the crawl stage. We have 4 steps to this that we will have, and why we decided to really break this down into minutia is we wanted customers to see value as soon as possible. And as we went through things, it was very evident that the best value comes immediately from an advertising perspective. And so that's where we wanted to focus initially, was getting all the infrastructure in place, all the data collection happening and training done so that people can start seeing that value in their advertising world. Then as that is going on and people are taking advantage of the low-hanging fruit and learning the system, we can fold in the other layers. Again, talking with various users of DMPs, including Lotame users, it was so interesting to hear that many of them felt that the system, I'm on it for less than a year, I'm on it for a year, I've been on it for 4 years, they're still seeing accelerated value from using a DMP. What they're doing has changed and how they're doing things have changed, but the value still continues to grow. And that was really attractive. And we felt that, okay, let's get that value starting and then we'll work to keep that value increasing. And so we put together a very basic crawl, walk, run, sprint stepped process so that we can keep folding things in as we have them to continue that growth to keep going and going for you. So we are at step number 1 and are working with our customers to get going in that on that front, and then we'll continue, and again we'll be bringing on more and more of our customer base. I talked a little bit earlier about the fact that we have a very vast and large customer group with many different needs, and so we really had to look long and hard at what we would offer for program options because we wanted to be able to meet everybody's needs. So we did a bunch of modeling, we looked at many facets, we talked to various customers to get information, and we came up with 3 programs options that we will have. Didn't spend a lot of time on naming them, but we know what they are: Enterprise, Advanced, and Standard. And we think then with these that we can offer value throughout our customer base. Let me talk a little bit about each of them to give you an idea of what they are, so you can kind of get a feel for maybe where you would sit. And again, we can get you additional information ongoing as well. But the enterprise group is really set up for those groups that have a lot of volume of advertising and resources that can do data analysis and managing of the audience segments and work with that data internally in their organizations. So they have a lot of opportunity with that. They also have a centralized ad ops division that can take advantage of that as well. But that's really the enterprise group. So they would have access into the Load-O-Me interface to be able to manage their segments and stuff individually. They also roll up to TownNews from that perspective and can take advantage of all the content management that we would offer, integration that we would offer. The advanced segment are customers who by themselves have enough volume that it makes sense to focus on their own advertising. They have advertising that's centralized ad ops that's set up, or ad ops that works for them, and they want to be able to continue that part of their operation, but they don't have resources to manage their ad segments. So this is where TownNews can come into play, and we offer consultative and services to help them manage their segments, provide them information on those segments, work with them to determine what their needs are, and bring them that information. But they don't have to have resources on site to do that themselves. So it gives us the opportunity to help them, and they still take advantage of that information inside of their organization. The standard group, this is our smaller customers who by themselves alone don't have really enough volume to drive a lot of difference and lift in advertising, but as a group this can happen a lot and can have that lift. So this is a program that they don't pay us, we pay them. And so let me tell you a little bit about that. It's a rev share type program. They hand over their advertising or part of their advertising to TownNews. We manage that as a whole, and they have a payout through the rev share part of that. All of these groups, I just want to make sure is clear, take advantage of the content management and have access to information about audiences that they can use in other parts of their organization. So they all get that. It's just how they want to have and interact with the DMP itself. So let's talk a little bit about project status. As I said, we just recently, it was on May 18th, we signed our contract with Load-O-Me, and we have, as of July 1st, 200 customers that are in the early adoption stage of getting on the TownNews IQ system and are working on data collection and the implementation phases. And we have rolled out and are starting to work on having full availability throughout all those program options with our customer base. So we're moving fast. There's additional information that will be available regarding the programs, and it's always, you can contact your sales rep to get additional information. Stay tuned for additional information that we will be providing our customer base through our TownNews IQ program too. So in summary, just to kind of highlight some of the points again, is our goal is to help TownNews, or our goal is to help our customer base utilize the TownNews IQ program to make yourself more competitive in your markets. This includes strengthening your ability to utilize that data not only in advertising but within the content and throughout your newsroom, marketing departments, etc. We believe that our program will offer you some avenues for collaboration and joint opportunities. As we get the foundation of this laid, those will become much more apparent and forthcoming, and there will be continual communications on those. We also believe that we can bring information to you that can help you get to your goals quicker as well. And that's really what our program is focused on. Metrics are hugely important. Publishing groups, media groups have all kinds of information in their organization that they may or may not be using. This helps them gather that into an actionable and meaningful way so that you can use that information for decision making. And the other thing that I just want to point out is that within the industry, I really had a hard time coming up with anything but people telling me that they use DMPs in a successful way. It was a very positive world out there. And this really puts the supply side, which is the publishers, on par with the demand side, the buyers, and you can start decommoditizing your inventory on an advertising world. And all that leads to increased revenue.
Great. Thanks, Teresa. At this point in the presentation, we would like to take questions from the audience. So if you have a question, please type it into the GoToMeeting chat box. We've had a number of questions come in over the course of the presentation, so I'll start going through those now. Okay, the first question is, so we're talking about first and third party data, correct?
Yes. So first party data is what your data you collect on your properties and in your organization. Third party data will be available to you to purchase, to utilize with that. With the first party data as well. So that's the one beauty about the Load-Me interface is you can actually buy it right in there. So if you're building a segment and you're missing a component that you think is important and it's available through third party, you can include it.
Okay.
You can't edit that part of the segment, but you would be able to include it.
Will this offering extend to mobile app and web?
Yes, it will. So our customer may have other properties that are not TownNews that you would like to extend this capability on. A good example is you want to put it and have it track on your mobile apps, or you may have a auto site or a real estate site that's not from TownNews, or you have other properties. That information can be put on those sites as well. How that would work is we take care of making sure all your tracking is working and available on the TownNews properties, and we will provide you what is necessary for you to extend that. And then that would be your responsibility to make sure that tracking is in place.
Okay. Are there any industry standards published on deduping?
I'm not sure. I don't know that is, but there is a definition of deduping that I used to do my research, and what deduping was defined as was the ability to make sure that let's start again here. The ability for you to identify a user once across multiple devices. And so that's what I think, the definition was. The industry standards on that. There are some other ways that people talk about deduping out there and what they use, but there's nothing. That's why Load-Me has a patent pending on theirs, is because they believe that their technology is actually unique and does what should happen with deduping. How we look at it, TownNews, is that we only want you to be counted once, no matter where you come into the system from, so that then your data is clean and your analytics can give you much better information about that user.
Will this service allow us to measure scroll depth?
I don't know what that is.
I'm assuming how far down on the page a user scrolls when they're actually viewing your site, and I don't think that that's a component of this.
Yeah. So one of the things with that would be more of an analytical type piece of information, which could be very good for you. when you would put it into the DMP is if that data is actionable and meaningful. So that's the things that you would use to help you determine, is this data that's worthy for audience segments. I'm not sure how scroll depth would help you in audience segmenting right now. Maybe thinking about where you're going to put a story from your newsroom, how far down the page, there could be some things, but you can track a lot of information, and it may be possible. It's not something I'm familiar with them tracking.
Okay. A question about the steps that you referred to, the crawl, walk, run steps. How long in terms of months for each step?
Good
They're
question.
wondering.
That is, so we did some projections ourselves just to kind of have some guidelines to see. And the steps aren't consistent in regards to length of time. So we believe we'll be in the crawl stage because most of our customers have what I'm going to refer to as low-hanging fruit. They're not doing a lot of ad targeting today. They aren't doing a lot of data collection that they're using for decision making. So there's many things that will come up and be apparent and available to them that will keep them increasing their revenue and working on their customer satisfaction and information throughout their network. What we're going to be using as gauges for those is looking at metrics of are we still increasing, are we still moving forward, and as we start to see some plateau coming, we head into the next step. The other part of it that will work with that is there will be just folding in of information as we go, and people will be able to consume it when they need to. So it won't be like we're going to be pushing everybody uniformly throughout those steps. You might say, I'm fine right where I'm at, I'm staying, I'm still seeing value, I don't think I need to do anything else, and 2 months later you may be ready. So when we look at that first step, that crawl step, because it's really important to get that groundwork underneath you and get people familiar with the system, it's probably a 6-month step for crawl at minimum. Then, it will continue increasing after that.
Okay. Does this program integrate and work with DFP too, or just Blocks Ad Manager?
It works so it will work with any ad server that supports audience segmentation.
Okay. How much scale do you believe you can achieve with the properties who ask you to handle the advertising? So I think we're talking about the
standard group.
Yeah.
When we did our research on that and kind of just put in soft lines of who we thought would qualify for which phase, we came up with a great volume of customers from a unique standpoint, and then we extrapolated out what we thought impressions would be based upon the averages that our customers are using on a per page, and the volume was very good. That would allow us then to find commonalities that advertisers would be very interested in. So we think there's a lot of potential there. And one thing I do want to point out about that is, even if you aren't a quote-unquote a standard-only user, you may be an enterprise or an advanced, and you have, say, remnant advertising that you don't want to handle on your own. That's another thing you can pass over to that standard program. So it's even though we set up 3 program options, there's going to be hybrids of those depending on what your needs are. And we feel that that volume together can really help every one of our customers in there increase their advertising revenue.
Okay. Does Lodomy have a digital network of media outlets for our advertisers to deliver what audience they are looking for, or is it just a compilation of data given to media and we use the data to deliver to our advertisers?
No, so Lodomy has integrations to just about anybody that you probably need to work with. If you're working with somebody very obscure, that might be an issue, but they have integrations. That's one of the things that they market is their ability. They have AdX and Pubmatics, Rubicon. They have integrations to a lot of the what I would call common advertising outlets that are there and that we can work with. We've been just here in the program getting activation channels set up, so we're learning a lot more about that as we go. But that was one of the things that attracted us to them, is the fact that they had those laid out in their with their software, and it's available for use.
Okay. What quantity of unique visitor mass does your site need to have effective audience segments for advertisers?
Yeah, and that's a good question, because it just depends on what your goals and metrics are for what you're trying to achieve, and how much volume plays into that. Some of the guidelines we've used is that in enterprise, greater than 50 million impressions on a monthly basis is probably a good metric. In that advanced group, for you wanting to go ahead and you feel you have enough volume, we use metrics around 25 million impressions a month. It varies depending on what the segment is, because think about it this way: when you target, the amount of people that you reach tends to go down, but you reach them in a much more valuable way. And I'll go back to the example that I used when we talked, of saying, you've got 1 million unique users that are coming to your site, and you find out that 250,000 of them are auto intenders. That 250,000 is much more valuable to the advertiser with a segment of auto intenders than your 1 million. And even smaller ranges than that can become very valuable to an advertiser, because with targeting, because they are reaching people that have a higher probability of engaging with what they're advertising.
Who do I contact to discuss the standard rev share possibilities for our sites?
Yeah, so contact your sales rep. They have been fully equipped with information in order to assist you. And behind the scenes will be Wes and myself working with the DMP program, the TownNews IQ, as well as other resources here internally that will support them. So we have a good network set up to keep the program moving and answer your questions.
Okay, a twofold question. What kind of metrics and at what regularity, daily, weekly, monthly, as needed, are available to partners, and are real-time performance dashboards available for the partner or customer?
So if you are an enterprise, you would have your real-time data available to you to work with. In the advanced group, we would provide reporting, and from information again that we got and during our research and working with Lotami on this, the one thing after you do your initial collection phase, which everybody targets as 30 to 60 days, your data from a standpoint of change will not be on a daily basis. That will really be reflective. It'll be, bi-weekly, monthly is what was presented to us. I don't personally have information that I can say I know exactly, but our thought is that we will have reporting that is done in a fashion that gets you the information you need throughout that period in order to utilize it within your organization. So we thought bi-weekly would probably be a good standard to start with. If we find that is not meeting needs, then we will adjust. The other thing is, it may be that's too much. You may only need it monthly, to work with, because when you're selling your advertising, you're kind of projecting and targeting anyhow, or forecasting anyhow from a standpoint of what you have and how many impressions you have. And after the data has collected for a period of time, you won't see as much fluctuation in many things. Now, I will caution you is that people come to your sites in different spurts, because hey, you may have some type of a huge story like a Ferguson, or maybe you're won the world champion, you're sitting in Chicago and the Blackhawks, or there's different reasons that people may come to your site in spikes, and those would need to be factored in as well. So that's the kind of stuff that we have metrics set up to watch. and to help you with as well, so that we know, what we're factoring in and what is a one-time occurrence versus a commonality.
Okay.
Did I answer that?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope so. In the standard section, you talked about using DMP for advertising revenue sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Any plans for Town News to use DMP for content sharing as well?
Oh, yes.
Excellent question.
Yeah, so Town News has another initiative that's on our roadmap that we're working on, and that is our Town News wide content exchange. And with that, there will be a tag-along ads, and we plan to use the DMP for that as well, because we would like the amount of revenue that is going to be shared on that ad between the originator and Town News to also increase increased revenue. So that's an area where if you have you are in a place where there is a spike in a big story and stuff, that Town News content exchange could really provide you some good value at that point too. So we want to make sure you can take advantage of that.
And we'll have more information coming out on that in the near future
Yep.
as well, so stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah, we felt it was important to get the DMP Town News IQ program in place because it can directly benefit that content exchange program.
Okay, it looks like we have worked through the questions. We'd like to move on to the final slide. Thank you, Teresa, for answering all of those. That was great. So if you need to get a hold of us, obviously if you want more information on the TownNews.com IQ program, please contact your sales representative. Otherwise, for documentation on this or all of our features, head to our docs site, docs.townnews.com. You can contact our customer support line at 800-293-9576 or support.townnews.com. Our partner community is a great resource for sharing ideas and asking questions of other TownNews.com users, other Block CMS users, and Total CMS users, and that's at community.townnews.com. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. To really keep up to date on the latest news, software release notes, webinar announcements, training department announcements, etc., please sign up for our email blasts. And to do that, go to townnews.com, click on the news link in the menu bar, and on the news page you can select which lists you'd like to be on and enter your email address. And that's one of the best ways to really keep in touch with us. Otherwise, that is it for the July customer webinar. Thank you again, Teresa, for doing the heavy lifting on this, and thanks everyone for attending. We'll be in touch with what's on the slate for the August webinar real soon. So, thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.